The morning air was still. Unnaturally still. Not a bird chirped, not a car passed. It was as if the world had paused, holding its breath. In a small suburban town just outside the city, 28-year-old Lena Morris sat by her kitchen window, clutching a half-empty coffee mug. Her once routine life, teaching high school English, walking her dog, grocery runs, had turned into a surreal nightmare over the last 48 hours. What started as vague news reports of aggressive behavior and unknown infections had snowballed into something monstrous. Entire neighborhoods had gone dark. Emergency broadcasts had gone silent. And now, her phone displayed a single message from the government alert system: shelter in place. Do not trust anyone. They are everywhere. The silence outside was deceptive. Inside, Lena's home had become a prison. Windows were barricaded with furniture, and her front door had 3 deadbolts. But it wasn't enough to stop what was out there. In the room next to her, Nathan, her 10-year-old nephew, slept curled up on the couch. He had been staying with her for the weekend when things spiraled out of control. His parents, her sister and brother-in-law, had gone into the city and never came back. Lena hadn't told him the truth. That she was scared. That she didn't think help was coming. She had to stay strong for him, even though her hands shook when she held a kitchen knife like it was a weapon. A loud crash outside jolted her from her thoughts. She rushed to the window. Across the street, the Hendersons' house door had been ripped from its hinges. A figure stumbled out, a man, bloodied and ragged, dragging his foot. Not quite human. Not anymore. Lena ducked. Her breath caught. "Please don't look over here," she whispered to herself. She watched through the cracks of the blinds as the figure paused, sniffed the air, then shambled down the road. Gone. For now. Before she could settle her nerves, someone banged on the back door. "Lena. Lena, it's me, Kyle." The voice was loud but desperate. Kyle Parker, her old friend from college and neighbor 2 houses down, had vanished after the first night of the outbreak. She hesitated. This could be a trap. Could the infected still talk? Were they luring survivors now? She peeked through the back curtain. Kyle stood there, dirty and shaken but very much alive. He clutched a crowbar in one hand, a bloodied backpack on the other. Lena cracked the door just enough to see his face. "You alone?" "Yes." "I barely made it out. They're everywhere." His voice cracked. "Please. I haven't slept. I haven't eaten. I didn't know where else to go." Against her better judgment, she let him in. Nathan stirred from the other room and groggily walked in, rubbing his eyes. "Who's that?" "A friend," Lena said quickly, giving Kyle a look that said don't scare him. Kyle collapsed into a chair. "You guys don't understand. The city's gone. They overran the checkpoints. The infected, some of them, they move faster now. It's not just slow walkers anymore. They're changing." Lena's stomach turned. "What do you mean?" "I saw one leap over a 6-foot fence like it was nothing. And some, they hunt together now. Like wolves." A sickening silence filled the room. Nathan hugged Lena's leg, sensing the fear. Kyle dug into his backpack and tossed out 2 cans of food. "This is all I have left. We need to move. This place won't stay safe for long. They can smell us. Hear us." Lena looked around her barricaded home. It had once felt like her safe place. Now, it was just another target. "We can't just leave," she argued. "Where would we even go?" Kyle pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. A hand-drawn map. "There's a group holed up in an abandoned radio station on Route 17. I heard them broadcasting yesterday. Short range. They're trying to organize a convoy. Supplies. Security. A real base. Or it could be a trap," Lena said. "It could," Kyle agreed. "But staying here? That's certain death." Nathan looked up. "A convoy? Like trucks?" Safe ones? Kyle nodded. With guards. Real ones. Lena knelt down, brushing Nathan's hair from his face. You trust me, right? He nodded. She stood up, turned to Kyle, and said, then we move. At dawn. One last night here. After that, we run. Outside, in the fading light, a distant howl echoed across the neighborhood. Not an animal. Not human. Something worse. There was no safe place anymore. But they were going to try anyway. The sky was still dark when Lena gently shook Nathan awake. The boy blinked groggily, clutching his worn-out stuffed rabbit, one of the few things he still had from his old life. Kyle was already up, checking the makeshift weapon he had fashioned from an old metal pipe and duct tape. The plan was simple: avoid the main roads, stick to alleyways, and head toward the abandoned radio station marked on Kyle's map. They each carried a small backpack. Kyle had a crowbar. Lena took a kitchen knife. Nathan had nothing but the rabbit and a flashlight with dying batteries. As they stepped outside, the morning air was damp and unnaturally quiet. A thick fog clung to the streets, wrapping the neighborhood in a ghostly veil. They moved fast, ducking under fences and cutting through backyards. Every sound felt magnified: the crunch of leaves underfoot, the distant caw of a bird, the creak of a swinging gate. Lena's heart pounded in her ears with every step. Kyle led the way, occasionally stopping to listen for movement. By the time they reached the edge of the neighborhood, the sun was just beginning to rise, and that's when they saw it. A burned-out gas station sat at the corner of a four-way intersection. The windows were shattered, the sign above the door scorched, and 3 abandoned cars sat in front of it. One of them still had the door open. Blood stained the pavement nearby. Lena tugged Nathan behind her. We go around. Kyle raised a hand. Wait. That station might have something. Water. Gas. Maybe even meds. I'll go alone. Before Lena could argue, he was already moving. Kyle crept across the open road like a shadow, ducking behind one of the cars and peeking inside. Nothing. Then the next. Nothing. He reached the station door, stepped inside. And the screaming started. Lena grabbed Nathan and ran forward before she could even think. Through the broken windows, she could see Kyle wrestling with something, someone. A woman, pale, dead-eyed, her mouth smeared with dried blood, was clawing at him with inhuman strength. Lena burst through the doorway and plunged her knife into the creature's side. It didn't flinch. It turned to her with a snarl. Kyle, bleeding from his shoulder, grabbed his crowbar and bashed it across the skull. Twice. 3 times. The thing finally dropped. Kyle slumped against a shelf, panting. That wasn't just any infected. Lena looked down at the body. Its eyes were glassy, but its muscles were tense, like it had just turned. She was fresh, Lena whispered. I think they're turning faster now, Kyle muttered. Faster than before. They grabbed what little they could, some energy bars, a half-used first aid kit, a cracked jug of water, and fled the station. Nathan had stood watch by the car, eyes wide with fear but silent and still. Just like Lena had taught him. They pushed on. As they made their way through the outskirts of the city, the world became more twisted. Burned homes. Crashed vehicles. Messages scrawled on walls in red paint, or something worse. The dead remember. Safe haven equals death. We are the cursed. At one point, they found a group of bodies lying on a front lawn. Not zombies. People. A family. Peaceful. Almost like they had gone to sleep together and never woke up. Empty pill bottles littered the porch. Nathan asked, why didn't they run? Lena didn't answer. Kyle did. Some people don't want to live in this kind of world. They didn't stop until they reached a narrow underpass that led beneath an abandoned train line. Kyle checked his map. If we keep heading north, we'll hit the radio station by nightfall. But we'll have to cut through the Black Ridge Industrial Park. Lena didn't like the sound of it. The area had always been half abandoned even before the outbreak. Now it was probably a breeding ground for the infected. "We'll rest here," she said, pointing to a walled-off service shed near the train tracks. Inside, they found crates, empty shelves, and a faint smell of oil. But it was dry, enclosed, and for now, safe. They blocked the door with a filing cabinet and curled up inside. As Lena dressed Kyle's wound, he looked up at her. "We're not going to make it, are we?" She paused. "We have to." Kyle gave a sad smile. "You always were the hopeful one." That night, Nathan dreamed of his parents. In his sleep, he whispered, "Mom, are you still out there?" And somewhere, just beyond the industrial park, something screeched into the darkness, long, high-pitched, and unnatural. Lena sat up, eyes wide. That wasn't a normal infected. Something new was hunting them. And they were walking right into its territory. Dawn painted the sky in shades of rust and ash as Lena, Kyle, and Nathan stood before the rusted, barbed wire fence surrounding Black Ridge Industrial Park. The air was thick with decay, metal, and something else, something rotting. The gate had been forced open long ago, bent inward as if something had clawed its way inside. Lena tightened the straps on Nathan's backpack. "No matter what, you stay between us. You don't run. You understand?" Nathan nodded, gripping her hand. His other clutched his flashlight, still barely working, flickering dimly in the early morning gloom. Kyle's face was pale, his arm still bandaged from the gas station attack. But he held his crowbar like he was ready for war. Inside the industrial park, the buildings loomed like forgotten giants. Warehouses with shattered windows, twisted scaffolding, and overturned forklifts gave the entire place a haunted feel. Their footsteps echoed as they moved cautiously through the maze of concrete and steel. Every few minutes, they would stop and listen. Nothing. And then, faint scratching. Somewhere distant, but moving. "We're not alone," Kyle whispered. They passed an open garage filled with burned-out cars. On the far wall, painted in something dark and glistening, were the words, "The nest is here." Lena shivered. "Keep moving." But Kyle froze. His eyes were locked on something further down the corridor between two buildings. "Look." A figure was crouched in the shadows, too still to be alive. It had its back turned, head cocked slightly to the side, as if listening. Then it jerked. Slowly, it stood. Its limbs were elongated, joints bending too far. Its skin was pale, stretched tight, and its eyes, glowing faintly blue. Lena's grip on the knife tightened. The thing sniffed the air. And screamed. It was not a normal scream. It was sharp, slicing through the silence like a blade. And suddenly, more movement, crawling, climbing, emerging, from windows, rooftops, drains. Dozens of them. Lena grabbed Nathan's arm. "Run. Now." They sprinted, dodging through narrow gaps between shipping containers and abandoned machinery. The creatures were fast, faster than anything they had faced before. One dropped from above, barely missing Nathan, who stumbled but kept running. "This way!" Kyle shouted, veering toward a storage building. They crashed through the door and slammed it shut behind them, pushing metal shelves in front of it. From outside came the sound of claws on metal, shrieks, and fists pounding against steel. They were trapped. Inside, the building was filled with dusty crates and overturned lockers. A staircase led up to a rusted catwalk, and from there, a ladder to the roof. Kyle, panting and wide-eyed, looked around. "They're nesting here. This is where they come during the day." Nathan was shaking. "Are we going to die?" "No," Lena said firmly. "Not today." But the truth clawed at her mind. These weren't just zombies anymore. These were something else, mutated, evolved. And if they were nesting here, that meant one thing. This outbreak wasn't just spreading. It was changing. "We have to get out of here," Kyle said. "Maybe we can break through the back." He pulled out the map and traced their finger along it. If we can cross the warehouse yards, there's a drainage canal on the far side. It runs past the radio station. Lena looked up at the catwalk. Let's get to the roof. See if we can spot a safe path. The three of them climbed. From the roof, they had a clear view of the entire industrial park. Creatures prowled below, creeping between shadows, sniffing the air. A few twitched their heads toward the building they were in, sensing them, but unsure where. Nathan pointed. What's that? Across the park, at the top of an old communications tower, a faint light blinked. Kyle's eyes widened. The station. That has to be it. Lena stared at it, filled with a sudden sense of hope and dread. It's close. But getting there would be suicide. Still, they had no choice. They descended quickly, Kyle bashing open the emergency exit at the back of the building. The creatures howled behind them, alerted by the sound. Go! Now! Lena shouted. They bolted into the maze again, zigzagging between buildings, barely keeping ahead of the monsters behind them. The sky darkened again, not from time, but from storm clouds rolling in. Thunder rumbled above as rain began to pour, slicking the ground and washing blood into the drains. Kyle slipped, landing hard on his bad arm, but Lena grabbed him and hauled him up. There's the canal. Nathan screamed. Ahead, a broken fence led down into a concrete drainage canal, now half filled with muddy water. They leapt in one by one, sliding down the slope and wading through the freezing current. Behind them, the creatures gathered at the edge, but didn't follow. They're not coming in, Kyle muttered. Maybe they don't like water, Lena guessed. Or maybe, they were waiting. As the group limped forward through the canal, the radio tower blinked in the distance. A possible refuge. A beacon of hope. But in this cursed world, nothing was ever safe for long. The blinking red light atop the old radio tower guided them like a lighthouse through the gloom. Rain fell harder now, soaking their clothes and turning the drainage canal into a slippery, treacherous path. Every few steps, Lena glanced behind, expecting to see those glowing-eyed creatures lurching after them. But they didn't come. The canal remained eerily quiet. Kyle grunted as he limped forward, favoring his injured arm. Why didn't they follow us? Lena shook her head. I don't know. But I'm not asking questions. Let's just move. Nathan trudged beside them, exhausted but silent, flashlight swinging at his side. He was growing up fast. Too fast. As they followed the canal around a bend, the terrain changed. A chain-link fence blocked their way, partially submerged in water. Beyond it, the path split, one route climbing up toward the hill where the tower stood, the other leading deeper into the drainage tunnels. Kyle stared at the overgrowth and collapsed fencing ahead. We're close. Maybe a mile away. Let's climb. With some effort, they scaled the fence and emerged into the overgrown yard of what looked like an old power station. Rusted equipment littered the area, and thick vines wrapped around everything, as if nature itself was trying to hide what had once existed there. But the tower loomed in the distance, ominous and tall. A path led through the brush toward it. Lena glanced up. This whole place is dead quiet. Nathan pointed toward the sky. Do you hear that? They froze. Above the sound of rain and thunder, a low mechanical humming echoed across the field. Not quite natural. It pulsed, steady and rhythmic, like a generator. Someone, or something, was powering the radio tower. Lena gripped her knife tighter. If someone's broadcasting, they might still be alive. Or worse, Kyle thought. It could be a trap. They pressed on. As they neared the tower, they passed rows of abandoned vehicles and temporary shelters, makeshift tents, supply crates, empty sleeping bags. It looked like a military camp, hastily set up and then just abandoned. Or wiped out. Stay sharp, Kyle whispered. The main building beneath the tower was small and square, a block of concrete and steel reinforced with metal shutters and thick doors. But the front entrance was open, the lock twisted and hanging. Inside, the air was stale. The smell of oil and damp metal hit them first, followed by something else. The sharp, unmistakable scent of death. Someone was here, Lena muttered, looking around. Not long ago. Computer screens flickered. Static buzzed from an old radio. A few messages were scrawled on whiteboards and paper. Broadcast every hour. No replies. Safe zone overrun. Moving east. If you're reading this, don't go to Red Ridge. Kyle sat at the radio and flipped switches, adjusting dials. Still powered. But barely. He pressed the transmitter. Hello? Anyone out there? This is Kyle Moreno. We're survivors, requesting contact. We need help. Static. He repeated the message 3 more times. Nothing but a low hiss replied. Then suddenly, a voice. Back. Get out, was a mistake, Red Ridge is not safe. The voice cracked with static. A man, panicked, trying to warn them. But the message cut off mid-sentence. Nathan clutched his rabbit tighter. What's Red Ridge? Kyle leaned back, eyes wide. It was a quarantine camp. A big one. We heard it was the safest place left. Lena stared at the radio. If it's gone too, then where do we go? Silence fell. Then, the power flickered. The lights dimmed. The generator sputtered. And from the back hallway, a sound. Scraping. Dragging. Lena raised her knife. Kyle lifted his crowbar. A figure stepped into the room. At first glance, it looked human, military fatigues, dog tags, a rifle slung over its back. But its eyes were wrong. Cloudy. Its skin pale. Lips parted to reveal cracked, bloodied teeth. It opened its mouth and let out a garbled, digital-sounding shriek, not quite zombie, not quite machine. Run! Kyle shouted. They bolted from the room, slamming the door behind them. It pounded once, twice, but didn't follow. Instead, it just stood there, watching them through the shattered glass window in the door. What the hell was that? Lena asked, heart racing. A hybrid, Kyle breathed. Some kind of crossbreed. We need to move, Lena said. Now. They fled the base, rain soaking them again as they crossed the field. Behind them, the radio tower blinked steadily, red light pulsing like a heartbeat. But whatever signal it had left wasn't a beacon of hope. It was a warning. And they had just walked straight into the heart of the cursed world. The wind howled as the group stumbled into the forest beyond the radio station, trees swaying like skeletal arms reaching out to drag them back. The rain had turned the dirt path into a trail of mud and slippery roots, but Lena kept pushing forward, driven by adrenaline, fear, and something else. Hope, however fragile, still flickered inside her. Where now? Kyle asked, panting. His injury was slowing him down, and every step looked like agony. Lena stopped beneath a crumbling sign half buried in vines. The faded letters spelled out Red Ridge Evacuation Center, 3 miles with an arrow pointing up a cracked hill road. Nathan's eyes widened. Red Ridge? But the voice on the radio, he said. I know what he said, Lena interrupted, wiping wet hair from her eyes. But if there's a chance someone's still alive there, we check it. We don't have anywhere else to go. Kyle hesitated, then nodded. Let's finish what we started. The sun never fully rose. A dense gray cloud cover gave the entire day a twilight haze, adding to the uneasy quiet that surrounded them. They moved cautiously, past toppled buses, burned-out tents, and skeletons still clutching duffel bags and water canisters. Red Ridge loomed ahead like a tomb. Once a massive refugee center built into the side of a mountain, it was now a wasteland of twisted fences, collapsed towers, and scorched ground. The gates were wide open. No guards. No lights. And no sound, not even the dead. Nathan clutched Lena's hand. This place feels wrong. She agreed. Every step into the camp made her skin crawl. Inside the compound, they passed empty medical tents and military barracks, all ransacked or burned. But strangely, no signs of a battle, no blood trails, no spent shells. Just absence. As if the people here had vanished into thin air. In the middle of the camp stood a 2-story command post. Its doors creaked open when Lena pushed, revealing dusty monitors, spilled files, and smashed radios. But one light still blinked on a terminal. Kyle brushed off the dust and powered the screen. It loaded slowly, revealing an archived video log titled, "Red Ridge, Final Day. Do not delete." They all leaned in as the video played. A soldier appeared on screen, pale, sweating, and terrified. Behind him, alarms blared and lights flickered. His voice trembled as he spoke. "To whoever finds this, we tried. God help us, we tried. But the virus, it's not just spreading. It's learning. Adapting. The last batch of infected didn't even look human. Some of them, they talked. They took over the generator room. They started using our systems. That's how they lured survivors, by hijacking our signal. Red Ridge isn't a safe zone anymore. It's a nest. And it's growing." The soldier turned suddenly, looking off camera. His last words were cut short by a piercing shriek, and then the feed ended in static. Kyle leaned back slowly. "They're using the radio towers. Baiting survivors into coming here." Lena's mind raced. "That means, they let us hear that transmission. They wanted us to come." A noise came from outside. A slow, rhythmic thump-thump-thump. Footsteps. But too heavy to be human. Lena peered through the broken blinds. A tall figure moved down the center of the camp, flanked by 2 smaller ones. The large one wore the remains of a lab coat. It was grotesque, its jaw unhinged, part of its skull metallic, like some half-machine monstrosity. But it wasn't alone. Behind it walked a man. Tall, lean, wrapped in tactical gear. And familiar. Lena's heart stopped. "Eli?" Kyle looked at her. "Who's that?" She didn't answer. Eli stepped forward, scanning the area with sharp, calculating eyes. He didn't move like a survivor. He moved like a predator. He spoke. "I know you're watching, Lena. I know you came looking for answers. You should have stayed away." Her knees buckled. She clutched the desk for support. Nathan looked up at her. "Who is he?" "My brother," she whispered. He was stationed at Red Ridge when the outbreak hit. I thought he was dead." Kyle's voice was cold. "He's not dead." "No. He wasn't. But he wasn't alive either." Eli raised his hand and pointed toward the building they were hiding in. The creatures behind him surged forward. "Run!" Lena shouted, grabbing Nathan and Kyle. They bolted out the back, dodging tents and wreckage. Screams echoed through the camp, not human, not fully zombie, some distorted, others sounding like laughter. As if the infected were playing with them. Lena didn't stop running. Because she had just realized something worse than death. The virus had taken her brother. And whatever he had become. He remembered her. The Red Ridge compound was no longer behind them, it was all around them. The moment Lena, Kyle, and Nathan ducked through the back gate, they entered a winding network of tunnels that had once served as the camp's underground storage and evacuation routes. Now, those tunnels felt like a grave. Their footsteps echoed in the darkness. Lena held Nathan's hand tightly, heart pounding. Kyle limped behind, grimacing with every step, his hand pressed to his side. "Do you even know where this leads?" he hissed. "Somewhere they won't expect us to go," Lena replied, scanning the concrete walls with her flashlight. The tunnels curved and twisted, filled with shadows that shifted unnaturally. Above them, faint sounds echoed, voices, distorted and digital, mixed with shrieks. The infected were everywhere. And Eli was hunting them. Nathan spoke softly, "Do you think he remembers us?" Lena didn't answer. She didn't know what was worse, that her brother might still be inside that thing, or that he wasn't, and the virus was only wearing his face. Eventually, they stumbled into a wide underground chamber. Rows of broken lockers lined the walls. A rusted sign above read, "Research access, level 2, staff only." Kyle stopped. Why would a refugee camp have a research wing? Lena narrowed her eyes. Unless, it wasn't just a camp. She yanked open a locker and found a dusty folder inside. Documents spilled out, handwritten notes, official reports, and images of creatures that looked like early-stage infected. In the margins, someone had scribbled frantic words in red pen. Phase 3 is uncontrollable. Subjects responding to electrical stimuli. They're not evolving, they're remembering. Kyle's face darkened. They weren't just treating the infected here, they were experimenting on them. Nathan pointed to a door in the back. A keypad blinked dimly, half-powered but still functional. Next to it was a small broken screen that displayed a frozen image of someone, a scientist, mid-sentence. Lena gasped. The woman on the screen was Dr. Madison Trent, a government virologist who'd vanished months before the outbreak. Kyle's eyes went wide. Is that the woman from the TV briefings? She helped design the quarantine zones, Lena whispered. And she said the virus was under control. The door beeped. A low-power hum came alive. The lock disengaged. Inside was a control room, smashed monitors, scattered notes, and 3 massive tanks that had once held something. Now they were shattered. One word was stenciled across each tank. E01. E02. E03. Experiments, Kyle muttered. And that's when they heard the recording. It played automatically from a console speaker as the door shut behind them with a heavy click. This is Dr. Madison Trent. Red Ridge was not a refugee center. It was a test site. We believed the infected could be conditioned, reprogrammed to retain obedience, even perform tasks. Subject E01 showed progress. He could speak. Follow orders. Remember fragments of his past life. His name was Eli Grant. Lena stepped back as if struck. The air left her lungs. Kyle's eyes darted to her. Eli was Subject 1? But something went wrong, the recording continued. The virus adapted. It bonded with the host's memories. Used them as camouflage. As a lure. We tried to shut it down. But Eli, he wasn't a test subject anymore. He was the virus's voice. The tape ended. Silence. Lena collapsed to her knees, numb. They used him. Turned him into a weapon. And now, he's not even fully infected. He's something else. Kyle crouched beside her. And he knows everything we know. Our tactics. Our weaknesses. Nathan stared at the shattered tanks. What happened to the other 2? A new voice answered from the shadows. They're awake. All 3 turned. A man stepped out of the darkness, face half-burned, one eye covered with a cracked lens, but alive. Barely. He held a pistol low and nodded at Lena. You're Eli's sister, right? I knew him. Before he changed. Lena stood slowly. Who are you? Captain Jace Navarro. I helped shut this place down when it went to hell. He paused. But we were too late. The experiments got out. And now Eli's building something. A hive. He's not just spreading infection, he's organizing it. Kyle stepped forward. Why tell us this? Because you're the last ones who can stop it. He won't kill you, Lena. Not yet. You're the one thread of humanity he still clings to. Nathan's voice trembled. What happens if that thread breaks? Jace answered grimly. Then there really will be no safe place left. Lena stared at Captain Jace Navarro like he was a ghost, half-burned, bloodied, and somehow still standing after everything. His words echoed in her mind, he's building a hive. And deep down, she believed him. Kyle checked his ammo, face grim. Nathan gripped Lena's arm tightly. The boy hadn't spoken in minutes. Jace moved quickly now, pulling back a rusted shelf and revealing a staircase that spiraled into the earth like a wound. This was the test chamber, he explained. Now it's Eli's stronghold. I've seen it from a distance. It's like they worship him. They? Lena asked. The others like him. Mutated. Half-aware. More intelligent than the mindless biters. But still bound to Eli. Like drones to a queen. She swallowed hard. And you think we can stop it? Jace's one good eye glinted. I think you can. The stairs groaned beneath their weight as they descended. Red emergency lights flickered along the walls, casting everything in pulsing shadows. The air grew colder, fouler. A wet, biological hum filled the silence, the sound of the hive breathing. The group emerged into a massive underground chamber. The walls were alive. Flesh and wires merged into grotesque patterns, pulsing veins running from floor to ceiling. Rotten corpses were embedded in the walls, twitching occasionally, still alive in some horrific limbo. And at the far end of the chamber stood a twisted throne of bone and steel. And on it, Eli. He rose slowly, dressed in the shredded remnants of his military uniform. His eyes glowed faintly with a pale, unnatural light. And he smiled when he saw Lena. Sister, he said calmly, like he'd just come home. Lena's breath caught. You remember me. I remember everything, Eli said, voice smooth but distant. Your 6th birthday. That dumb pink cake. The time I carried you home when you broke your leg. All of it. Then stop this, she begged. Whatever this is, let me help you. Eli stepped forward, arms slightly outstretched. I am helping. I'm building a world without fear. No hunger. No pain. Just unity. Purpose. Kyle raised his gun. You mean infection? Eli didn't even glance at him. You'd call it that. But the virus evolved. It saw what humanity did with freedom, war, greed, betrayal. So it offered something better. Order. Peace. Immortality. Nathan whimpered, backing away. Eli's head tilted, curious. Still afraid of me, Nathan? You shouldn't be. I could make you strong. Brave. Lena stepped in front of the boy. You're not my brother anymore. Eli's face twitched, an emotion Lena couldn't place. And then everything erupted. From the shadows, half-turned infected leapt out, shrieking. Kyle opened fire, bullets ripping through abominations of bone and sinew. Jace tossed an improvised grenade, boom, sending a wall of flesh crashing down. Lena ran straight for Eli. He didn't move. Just watched. She tackled him with all her strength, slamming them both to the ground. Kill me, Eli whispered in her ear. I won't fight you. She raised her knife, trembling. Then Eli grabbed her wrist. Not violently. Gently. But you won't, will you? Lena's lip quivered. You were supposed to protect me. I still can, Eli said. Let go of your fear. Join me. Help me finish this. Behind them, Jace yelled, Lena. Move. A massive creature surged toward her, one of the E-Series test subjects, its body stretched and fused with metal. Kyle and Jace opened fire together. Lena pulled back and stabbed Eli in the chest. He gasped, not in pain, but in disappointment. You chose extinction, he said quietly. The room began to tremble. The walls pulsed violently. Eli's blood was dark, too dark, like black tar. It hissed as it touched the ground. The hive screamed as if it felt his pain. We have to go. Jace shouted. Lena staggered back. Is he? But Eli was already rising, the wound in his chest slowly closing. You can't kill what's already evolved. He lifted a hand, and the infected stopped mid-charge, suddenly still. Eli looked at her one last time. Next time, I won't ask. He disappeared into the shadows as the hive's walls began to collapse. They barely escaped. The underground shook with tremors as the hive collapsed in on itself, flesh and stone imploding in a grotesque roar. Outside, they fell to the dirt, coughing, bleeding, shaking. He let us go, Kyle said. No, Lena whispered, staring at the smoke rising from the earth. He warned us. Nathan looked up. What do we do now? Jace lit a cigarette with shaking hands. We tell the world. If there's one left to tell. Lena didn't respond. She stared into the dark horizon. Because Eli was out there now. And he was done hiding. The ruins of Red Ridge smoked behind them, sending thick black clouds into a gray sky that hadn't seen sunlight in days. Lena, Kyle, Nathan, and Jace sat huddled around a dying campfire, the silence between them heavier than any words. They had seen Eli's hive. Watched it breathe. Felt it scream. And even after destroying its heart, he still lived. The virus hadn't just survived, it had evolved. And now it was spreading faster than ever. Jace tuned the radio again, catching fragments of desperate transmissions. Southeast quadrant breached. No more room in the safe zone. They're thinking now, we can't predict them. Lena stared at the fire. Her mind kept going back to Eli's words, you can't kill what's already evolved. She wasn't sure he was wrong. The group traveled east, toward what was left of Fort Evergreen, one of the last known human strongholds. Along the way, they saw the signs, infected no longer wandered aimlessly. They moved with coordination. Purpose. They passed burned towns, fields turned to mass graves, and signs that survivors had tried, and failed, to fortify themselves. Symbols were scrawled in ashen blood, a crude crown, surrounded by hollow eyes. Eli's mark. Nathan walked silently, more mature than he should be for his age. He hadn't cried since Red Ridge. Not even when he saw children, turned, twisted, used, as bait. Jace said what none of them wanted to, it's not just about survival anymore. It's about what comes next. Kyle shook his head. You think there's a future in this? There might be, Lena said quietly, but only if we stop Eli now, before he finishes whatever he's building. Fort Evergreen was not what they expected. There were walls, yes, but the faces behind them looked hollow, paranoid. As Lena's group approached, armed guards stepped out, guns raised. No newcomers, one barked. We're full. Lena raised her hands. We have information. On the hive. On the infected. On Eli Grant. The guards exchanged glances. Then they opened the gate. Inside, they met Colonel Mara Vasquez, a hardened woman who didn't waste words. You've seen the hive? Yes, Lena said. It's not just a nest. It's a blueprint. Eli's trying to create a network, a way to control all infected through him. Like a living signal. Vasquez studied her. So what you're saying is, if we take him out, we sever that signal? Maybe, Kyle said. But he's not easy to kill. Then we hit him with everything we've got. Lena shook her head. He's expecting that. He'll be ready. He wants us to attack. Jace looked up. Then maybe we give him what he wants. The plan was madness, but it was the only one they had. Using the compound's remaining drones, they lured Eli's growing horde toward the ruins of an abandoned missile silo, baiting them into a trap lined with explosives. Jace volunteered to be the ground lead. He knew how to draw the infected without triggering the hive's alarm. Lena had one job, find Eli and face him. Not as a soldier. Not as a killer. But as his sister. The battle was chaos. Infected swarmed in waves, many more than expected. Gunfire lit up the night. Bombs shook the ground. Kyle covered Jace as he activated the charges. And Lena? She walked into the center of the swarm. Eli was waiting. He stood beneath a ruined overpass, arms behind his back, as if he'd been expecting her all along. "You brought an army," he said. "You started a war," she replied. "Wrong. I started a new world. You just can't see it yet." "I don't want to." Eli stepped closer. "But you will. When the pain of losing me fades, you'll understand. I'm not your brother anymore. I'm what comes after." Lena held up a detonator. "Then this is goodbye." But Eli just smiled. "Even if you kill me, it won't stop. The virus is no longer a passenger. It's a legacy." He stepped forward, unafraid. And Lena, with tears in her eyes, pressed the trigger. The sky turned orange as the explosions tore through the hive's heart. The blast engulfed Eli in flames. All across the field, the infected staggered, confused, disconnected. Some collapsed. Others simply stopped moving, as if their purpose had been erased. The hive was broken. Back at Fort Evergreen, survivors watched the skies for days, waiting for another wave, another signal. But none came. Jace survived. Barely. Kyle was wounded but alive. And Nathan smiled for the first time in weeks. Lena stood at the wall, looking toward the horizon. "He's gone," Kyle said, joining her. "For now," she replied. "You think there'll be more like him?" "I don't know," Lena whispered. "But even if there are, we'll be ready." She turned to walk back into the fort, into the wreckage of the old world, and the fragile hope of a new one. Because even if there's no safe place in a world cursed by the undead, there are still people willing to fight for it.